Hey everyone, do your base colors, can they make a difference in the overall appearance of your design that you're going to put down? We're going to use Stone Coat's new Speed Cure Pro, and we're going to find out. So stay tuned and let's see what happens. So let's talk a little bit first about Stone Coat's new Speed Cure Pro. It is an epoxy that's going to set up much quicker than the regular Stone Coat epoxy. Where you normally have an hour and a half to 2 hours of working time, you've got about 30 to 45 minutes. It's a little bit of a thicker product as well, so you have to be careful when you're mixing it up, and you have to be a little more cautious about making sure that you really do a good job of scraping the sides and the bottom of your bucket. And because it's a little bit thicker, you also want to be careful you don't entrain too much air into the Speed Cure epoxy when you're mixing it. If it's turning a white or a milky white, that means you've entrained quite a bit of air in there, and that's okay. You just have to be sure and be careful and make sure that you get all of the air bubbles popped. I'm using primarily mica powders here, and you have to remember with mica powders, you're not necessarily dyeing the epoxy, right? Because mica powders are more of a, well, they're a mica. And so it's not necessarily tinting the epoxy, so it's going to be more translucent. It may look very, very opaque as you're mixing it in the cup, but once you get a pour down onto the surface, remember, you've only got about a 16th inch of product, and so it's going to be more translucent. As you can see here, when I'm getting these colors poured out, you can really distinguish exactly what undertone colors are underneath that. So it really does make a difference. Let's go on. I don't know if y'all are surprised as I am as how translucent that is, because I mixed all those mica powders up pretty opaquely. And you can see the bling of what I did with that milky white and the gold dust and the diamond dust. All right, now we're going to get a little bit of, we want to get some marbling in there. So for the marbling, I'm using some Alumilite black dye, and then I'm also using some blue earth to give it a little bit of color. And again, it's not so much about the design that I'm creating here, as it is wanting to see, again, how much those undertone colors are going to make a difference. Now, if you can see on that far left, that's really going to be and show more of that marbling look and more of that kind of that bright, elegant white, if you will. And it's going to look a lot different on the other colors beside it. So I just drizzled on some of the black, I drizzled on some of the blue, and now I'm just going to lightly meld that in with my hand, as you can see what I'm doing here. Here I'm just melding in, and I'm adding a little bit more black in the areas that have the darker undertones because it isn't showing up as much, but it is showing up quite a bit on the white. The other thing to be aware of with the Speed Cure Pro is because it sets up faster, a lot of the melding, a lot of the techniques that we use will soften up over time because there's an hour and a half to 2 hours with regular epoxy. Well, with the Speed Cure Pro, it's only going to move for 30, 45 minutes to an hour at the most. And so you need to be aware of that also when you're putting down your designs of how much your design is going to soften and kind of flow. So now let's do a flyover after the epoxy's had a chance to sit for a couple hours. And again, it's a speed cure, so it's not going to move for very long, and it's not going to flow out and soften, but you can tell how a lot of that did soften from melding with my hand. So that far left was brown, next to that was black. Again, it's the exact same colors, exact same everything that went all the way across. Are you as surprised as I am of how much the undercoat paint and the fogging that we might do with spray paint, how much that can make a difference in the overall appearance of our design? Now, if you're using epoxy dyes, that it's actually going to tint the epoxy more opaquely, those aren't going to show up as much, obviously, but if you're using a combination of dyes and also mica powders, you can see how that undertones can really make a difference. Again, whether you're fogging the surface with spray paint or maybe you're using a white or a black, see how much more that black shows up with the white, and also how much different that white can look from the gray beside it. And you can use a much lighter shade of gray so your white marble may not be as bright white. It's So there you have it. Now let's talk a little bit about the Speed Cure. And this is Stone Coat's new Speed Cure. So let's do a recap on the Speed Cure Pro. All right, so first of all, let's talk a little about the fact that it's a thicker product. You want to be careful when you mix up the product in your cup. If you're using a drill with a paddle mixer, you want to mix it a little bit slower so you don't entrain too much air into the product. And then also, again, because it's a thicker product, make sure that you scrape the sides and the bottom of your bucket a lot more than you normally would with normal Stone Coat epoxy. Because it's thicker and heavier viscosity, it's going to stick to the sides and the bottom of that bucket. Also know that your design isn't going to flow and it's not going to move as much. Not necessarily because it's a thicker product, but also because of the fact that it's going to set up quicker. So that natural movement we're going to see in a matter of maybe 20, 30 minutes, you're not going to have that much time. So because of that, you also might want to consider mixing up 4 ounces per square foot for a standard pour. Again, because it's thicker and it's not going to have as much time to self-level and flow as what we're used to. Now also, keep in mind you've got a less working time. So you're going to have 30 to 45 minutes opposed to maybe an hour and a half to 2 hours. And of course, this is all going to depend on your climate. But you don't want to mix too many colors at one time because that alone is very time consuming. And again, it's not going to remain as fluid with that less working time. So you'll need to determine how many square feet that you're going to be able to cover at one time or in one pour. Then you'll also need to determine how complex of a design am I going to be able to create with the amount of time that I have to work. Obviously, if it's a smaller project, you're going to be able to get a little more complex. If you've got a larger, say, bathroom vanity, you may not have enough time to manipulate the colors or work a particular design you're going to work. So you really need to determine how much time you have and what kind of design you're going to be able to create. So can I use Speed Cure as a flood coat? You can, but you have to be really careful, and it's going to take a little bit of practice, a little bit of experience, because if you are torching late, maybe you've incorporated a lot of air bubbles. And if you torch late, keep in mind, the later you torch, the less likely it is for those bubbles to be able to self-level and close back up again. So in summary, quickset epoxy requires a little different mindset, which also requires some practice. How much time are you going to have? How many square feet can you cover at one time? And how simple or how complex of a design will you have time for? As far as uses and advantages, flood coat can be applied approximately 4 hours after pouring your color coat, which is awesome. Stone Coat's Ultimate Top Coat can be applied in approximately 4 to 6 hours. And a lot of this is going to depend on your climate, of course, if you're in cool temps, warm temps, etc. My favorite part, again, I'm done scraping drips after an hour. That to me is a game changer right there, because I don't like grinding drips. I scrape my drips. So, best uses. Putting mesh down on shower panels, fantastic. Sealing bare wood, bathroom vanities, if you do on-site seams, crafts, Lazy Susan's clocks, tumblers. If you have used the Clara marble technique, you know you need a smooth, slick surface. I can put my color coat down 4 hours later, I'm ready to do the Clara marble technique. Another thing I'm excited about the new Speed Cure is to be able to create sample boards for a customer. In a matter of about 4 or 5 hours, I'm ready to present that to the customer instead of having to wait 24 hours. So Stone Coat's new Speed Cure, we're going to find more and more uses for it as time goes on, but I really, really like the product. And we're going to be able to learn more tips and tricks as time goes on. So I've included a link in the description of this video where you can click on that link to purchase your Stone Coat Speed Cure, and I've got a coupon code in there for you to get 10% off. So be sure and check out that description, click on the link, use that coupon code, and you'll get 10% off your order. Thanks everybody for watching. I appreciate it. Be sure and subscribe if you haven't yet. I appreciate your support, and we'll see you on the next video. Thanks everybody. Take care.